Welcome to the June 11th City Council meeting. Councilors Gong and Kirkpatrick are absent and excused. Could we please stand for the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we do public input, I'd like to recognize a couple teams here from the high school that won state championships this past week. Also, the girls tennis team, who is not here, won the Northern Maine Championship, so they should, congratulations to them also. So, to the track team, raise your hand, track team. Right, this is the first ever state championship for the track team, for the boys. Have the girls ever won it? See? Okay, you're breaking ground, guys. That's great. Is somebody from the press here? I guess we have the AGM. Can you get still photos?
Yeah.
Or can you send them to the Republican?
Yeah, sure.
You get along with them?
What was that?
You can send them to the Republican newspaper?
Yeah, I don't see
Okay, thank you. How do we want to do this?
So I think if we'd like to have them stand up and maybe get a picture with you, and then you can each shake their hands afterwards, and we can set that up.
Okay, so I guess guys, just come up and turn around. Stand. Chris, go over there. You're still taller than I am. Chris, I saw you when you got your personal best. You were like the king again. That was great.
You get so pumped up.
I don't know if this is
You gotta get that banner right now.
Go ahead. Where's all that?
Someone has to kneel down.
I used to be.
How about your short kneel? Not.
Right here, fine?
Like this way, if we can't see your face, we won't see it.
I'm in here.
Hey, 1, 2, 3.
You want to jump into that?
Hold it for a second. There we go. Now I can see the banner. Good. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Hospital visa.
I think it's on here. There's agendas right over there.
Coach Habib, would you get your tennis players here, please?
Very nice.
Yeah, I know. Just be taller than you. Yeah. No trophy.
Coach forgot it. Yeah, I can hold on to that one, just sort of cover the,
Tell that it's not a tennis guy.
Isaac, can we borrow? You want us to put down my head?
Hey, look, it's got.
I don't want to, dude. Hold on to
I don't know about that, Roy. I don't know about that. Maybe like
You look
just
good,
for
Sawyer.
I made an executive decision.
One, two, three.
Didn't flash.
Didn't flash.
You got it?
I know.
Wait out there till flash.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for having us. Thank you for having us. Thank you for having us. Thank you.
Did you pay your admission fee, have you?
I paid my taxes, yes. And I'm not complaining.
Okay, good.
I think it's a pretty good deal. I was living in southern Maine.
Nice job.
Take care.
Where to look at afterward. Yeah. So.
We will now have public input. Any input from members of the public?
Hello, I'm Crystal Fulton, and I'm the owner of the Riverside Motor Court and RV Park down, not RV Park, but Mobile Home Park down next to Dodo's on Access Highway. So we know what I'm talking about. And the reason I'm here is I'm asking for a tax abatement on the taxes on the mobile homes that are there. That is a piece of property that I actually quite embarrassed that I even own, but it is, I want to clean it up. I want to get those mobiles out of there, and I'm looking at economic redevelopment with Noella to see what we can do with that particular piece of property. On the taxes, to give you where I'm at, I'm running right now at a $16,000 deficit just for this year on that park. So there's not money to pay for the mobiles. Almost all of them are basically need repair. They're unlivable. I own 2 mobile homes out there that currently have tenants in them, but there's just so much work that needs to be done on them, and they really need to go. So that's what I'm asking the city, if I can get an abatement on those taxes that are owed for 16-17, and I'd like to have them pulled out of there by the end of the year so they're gone. And I think there are 3 or 4 units that are owned by other people, not owned by me, that's on the property. But it's time that particular property, which is a beautiful piece of property, it needs major redone. And running the deficits that I am, I just don't have it. I've got to kind of go with a clean slate and see what we can turn that around and do something with that particular property.
Have you spoken to anybody here at City Hall about abatements?
Yeah, we talked today.
Because usually you go to Penny first, and then we get it as a council item, but manager, where would we be on this?
This is the first that I've heard of it. I know I've had conversations before about the desire to redevelop the park and what are some options out there, but this is the first I've heard as far as the tax abatement. So certainly we could take application and fill out. I guess I don't know that necessarily we could abate the taxes, but there might be some other economic opportunities that we could look at as far as some funding opportunities or some other things that way. But we'd have to look at what the basis would be for the abatement, other than just abating the taxes.
So could you get together with the manager and Penny, whatever, fill out an application, and
Look at it.
and we'll get it. And that's how we usually work.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I will do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
We'll be able to talk when you have a public hearing on the TIP program.
You can speak during public hearings, yes. Any other public input? All right, seeing none. Declaration of potential conflicts of interest.
I would like to address, what am I here? Number 9B, River Road construction. I guess I need to clear up something here. I live on the River Road, about a mile down from where the damage is done. And I need to clear something up, that I do not have a personal relationship with the Jalberts, the Jurettes, Fournier, or Terrio. So as far as any negotiations or anything that's going on with those 4 properties that we are talking about of late, I have no relationship with those people. There is no conflict. I do have a relationship with the Gove property that's one down from them, but that property is not right now being discussed. There's no action that's been taken. If and when any action is taken concerning that property, and whether it's going to be taken by the city, whether or not any discussion or anything, I certainly intend to abstain from any discussion or any voting, but I wanted to make sure and clear up the fact that I have no relationship with the 4 properties that we are dealing with now, and I have no conflict of interest on those 4 properties.
Thank you. Consent agenda. May financial statements, minutes from April 30th meeting, minutes from City Council May 14th, minutes from Special Council meeting May 29th, and renewal of liquor and special amusement permit for the Bar and Grill. Move the slate.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Number 6, recognition of ballot clerks.
Mayor Martin, I would let me turn the time over to Jane Fair and the city clerk for that, please.
Good evening. The ballot box is the gateway to democracy, and voter registration is the key to the gate. A quote from an Idaho State Senator, Kurt McKenzie, date unknown. If the ballot box is the gateway to democracy, then the 2 ballot clerks we recognize this evening are the gatekeepers. Brenda Burgoyne has served 28 years, starting while Sylvia Akeley was city clerk. John McKernan was governor, and the first Bush was president. Ellen Coro has served 48 years, starting while Capitola Harrington was city clerk. In other words, Ellen started before Councilors Kirkpatrick and Cody were born, and Councilor Jurette was 2.
Still is.
Ken Curtis was in the Blaine House, and Richard Nixon was in the White House. Over these years, the 2 women have served Caribou well. They have checked off voters on the incoming voting list, passed out ballots, making sure that voters get only those ballots that they are entitled to, watched over the ballot box, and passed out I voted stickers. We have enjoyed, Kaylin and I, working with both women, and want to extend our gratitude and appreciation to Brenda and Ellen. So I do have plaques, and I do want a picture, so. And I hope the mayor will come down and help too. Let's start with you, Brenda. You can take it off the bed. Step back. Thank you. Good. You'll email them to me, Tassie? Yes, I will. Thank you very much.
All sunburned from the flashes.
I'll miss you tomorrow.
Nice.
Okay, item 6C, appointment of city tax collector / treasurer and deputy tax collector.
Want to take that one, Wanda?
Okay, so about a year ago, I approached all of you and let you know that I was going to be leaving, and now the time has come. I'm 6 days out. Wednesday is my last day here. Don't cry. So we're here tonight to have you sign certificates of settlement for me for the uncollected personal property taxes that are not liened, that will be recommitted to Carl Grant, who will be taking my place, and also to sign the recommitment as well.
So there's a couple of things that need to take place tonight. One is that the council needs to approve or appoint Carl Grant as the new tax collector and city treasurer, if you would. And then would be the approval of the settlement documents, which are in your packet. And then finally, we have in the staff memo that you would be appointing a deputy city tax collector. And Jane pointed out to me that when you have the tax collector or treasurer leaving and you appoint a new one, you also need to be reappointing their deputy treasurer. And at that point, that's been Holly Duty that's been serving in that capacity. And so we need to reappoint Holly as the deputy treasurer as well.
What are the wishes of the council?
I didn't hear the last part about the deputy treasurer. Who were we appointing to that?
Holly Duty. She's currently the deputy treasurer under Wanda. But
Right.
with the new treasurer being appointed, she needs to be reappointed.
Okay. She wants to do it.
She's indicated that she would do that.
And are we also appointing the deputy city tax collector?
You're going to approve that tonight, yes?
They moved to appoint Carl Grant as the Caribou City tax collector and the city treasurer effective immediately. Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Approved?
It's Carla Duty.
Holly.
Paula.
Holly.
I called that. Battery. New hearing aids. Turn them on. Sorry. Okay. Move to appoint Holly Duty as the deputy treasurer. Excuse me. Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Approved?
I'm sorry. Okay, move to appoint Jessica Thurbridge, be appointed deputy tax collector effective upon her first day of work at the city, and that is going to be June 18th.
Yes, Monday.
Yes.
Okay.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Have to accept the certificate of settlement. Correct?
Yes.
That was under Wanda Wren. Move to accept the certificate of settlement that was under Wanda Wren.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Approved. Thank you for your service, Wanda.
Thank you, guys.
You've done a great job for us. And you know, it's pretty warm in Florida right
I know, I can't wait because Jane is freezing me right now.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
Good night.
Take care.
Discussion and possible action regarding repair of Collins Pond Dam. Manager. Oh, I'm sorry.
Evening, Mayor, Council. As you guys have all seen, if you've gone around town and driven by the Collins Pond, it looks like low tide at South Portland right now. There's not a lot of water in the pond. This past spring, we lost more of the dam. What little bit of the dam is left, more of it left this spring with the runoff. Probably decreasing the water by close to another foot. We've never seen conditions in Collins Pond to be this low with this much material showing at this early of a season. Usually around August we get it. This is, it's just brown. So we've had a few contractors that have come over and looked at helping us out with possibly utilizing some of the bigger rocks that are down below the spillway. There's some pretty big rocks down through there. Gotten some prices. The job could be fairly easily repaired, or the dam could be repaired with no touching of the existing dam whatsoever. We would put all the rocks on the upside of the dam, keying them in. We would have to haul about 50 yards worth of smaller stuff to kind of sprinkle in between the cracks. We know that it's going to still leak water out. That the purpose of repairing it this way would not be to completely seal it, but it would slow the water down. It would slow the water down enough that we would raise the water levels by a good 2 feet, allowing the whole pond to be covered in water versus what we see now. So we've had FEMA come and looked at it a couple weeks ago. Their first question to us was, "Where's your records of maintaining the dam?" Well, there hasn't been any. So I'm pretty sure, not going to say that FEMA won't help, but the likelihood of that happening is pretty slim. I met with DEP this morning, took them out to the site, showed them it. We cannot utilize a permit by rule, which is a 5-minute application. It has to be a full permit, an RPA permit. I've got it here. It's about a $315 application fee. That's the least amount of what it's going to cost to fix it. As you guys recall, last year, University of Maine at Orono did an engineering assessment on the dam. That is going to help us greatly in working with DEP on the full permit. Having something in hand is going to be very beneficial for us. So what we're looking at doing is seeing if we could utilize some money from the Collins Pond Reserve account to see if we can put some of those rocks back and repair the pond, repair the dam so that we can hold some water back. The low bid was, I believe it was 11.5. I believe that we could do this project for well under that. About 25 hours or so of excavating work. DEP indicated that as long as you're utilizing clean rock that's washed or rock that's there now, we do not have to set up a cofferdam, which is good news, because once you start setting up a cofferdam and pumping the water out, it becomes a lot more costly. Can't do anything until July 14th. I got a window of July 14th to October 14th. Water's the lowest at that time, and most of the fish species, or most of the aquatic species, are done spawning, so that's the time frame. The permit is typically a 45 to 60 day turnaround. He's pretty sure that they could probably turn it around sooner if they get it in their hands soon. So I've got to start working on the permit if the council so chooses to allow us to continue with this project. I would like to, if you haven't seen it, all you got to do is go down to Mill Park to the building and look, and it's pretty dry. It would be nice to dredge it, but that we're talking about a whole different ball of wax with dredging it. I'm pretty confident. Mr. Marker and I have looked at it several times. I've had another engineer look at it. The rocks would be effective. The rocks are big enough. Water's not going to move them. There's no ice flow through there to speak of. These rocks that are down below the spillway were not rocks that rolled down over the years. There were rocks that were put there when they built the dam. They've never moved. You're not moving those size rocks very easily. So it requires a pretty good size excavator to do the job. So I'm asking for the blessing of the council to see if we can retain some water in the pond.
This work that you're talking about possibly doing is predicated on approval of the permit from the DEP, right?
Correct.
You
Correct.
can't do it unless you have that permit.
I can't do it unless no, and I can't. And we're just not disturbing, but we're doing more than 50% of the dam reconstruction. I have to go through this permit. If it was less than 50%, I could get by with a permit by rule. But Mr. Belair indicated this morning that it has to be a full permit. But he said with this in hand, this will be should be pretty much our golden ticket to getting the permit.
You said that you thought you could do it for less than the lowest bid. Does that mean you're going to do it?
No. But
Big shoulders, but
Right.
yeah, the contractor indicated that whatever he's going to get for the hours in there. So I think it's a fair price. It would be nice to be able to retain the water. We do have a lot of people that come. There's a lot of people that walk the walkway to begin with, and we have a plethora of people that come in to see the geese migrating. And right now, there's not enough water to hold 200 geese. I mean, it's pretty dry.
That's why they left early.
Yeah.
Gary, doesn't that affect the view from the overlook? That doesn't affect.
No.
Okay.
No, that's it.
That's
It's far enough away that but no, it could never. The deck, even with the trees limbed up, which is another project we're going to start here shortly. You can't see the dam from that overlook. Can't.
Anything else? What are the wishes of the council?
How much money is in that line?
we budgeted 20,000 this year into that.
Is it in there? 20's in there, right?
I'll second that.
We have a motion to make those repairs and a second. All those in favor? Approved.
Thank you. I'll let you know if we're successful with the permit. Thank you.
Okay, we now have public hearings. First public hearing at 6:29. Catering alcohol license for County Farms Market LLC at 31 Herschel.
What time did you open it?
6:29.
I believe.
I'm here to answer any questions you want.
Stand up to the podium.
How you doing?
Hey.
Good. Yeah, I'm Mark Kelly, owner of Country Farms Markets. We also have a catering company and a real estate company. I recently purchased at auction this past winter the building here on the corner on 31 Herschel Street, and I remodeled the downstairs into a small conference room, catering center, and we'd like to expand our liquor license into being able to serve, if a function wants alcohol there, we would go in and serve them.
Is this the St. Peter building?
Yes. Yep.
Any questions? Any questions from the public? Public hearing closed at 6:30.
Move to approve.
We have a motion to approve in a second. Discussion. All those in favor?
Thank you.
All right with that?
Thank you very much.
Mark, I won't have that signed until Wednesday.
I'll come over when you're ready. Okay.
The election, we're closed tomorrow.
Yeah, okay. No problem.
Thank you. Thank you.
Public hearing at 6:31. Ordinance 218 series, allowing administrative review of customary licenses and special operating permits.
What time did you open it, sir?
6:31.
On one of these, in Article 1 taxi licenses, 701, it's on the first page. You see Section 1, Title 7 Amendments, and then 1, Title 7, Article 7, Article 1, Section 7-101 in the middle of the page. And then you go down every motor vehicle.
Got it.
Okay. I am passing out, the top one has in the word that's there now, and the one, would you pass it down, please? The one below is what the police chief and myself are hoping that you will change it to. It will help with prosecution for taxi cabs who may not want to come in and get licensed, changing it from place to place within to upon the streets. So if you do adopt this ordinance, I would hope that you would also include those words, the change.
Okay. For the public, this is, whenever we have garbage trucks or taxi cabs that need permits, they get inspected by the police, and then they go through the application with the city, pay the fees and all this stuff, and then it comes to the council and we automatically approve them if the police chief says everything's okay. This would allow the city to issue those permits without having to come to the council. It's just routine stuff that they have to
It's a
do.
relicense, right?
Relicense.
Not an
right.
initial.
Right, the initial will still come to us, yes, thank you. So that's what the deal is. Any comments from the public?
Clarification, that an initial license pertaining to alcohol would come to you, but initial licenses like a taxi cab, things would not have to come to you.
Okay.
Just the alcohol licenses.
Public hearing closed at 6:34. Council?
I propose that we adopt the ordinance with the change proposed by Jake. The upon the streets on 7-101.
Second.
Discussion?
Yeah, I have a question. I remember a while back, I think it was Councilor McDonough that asked about the unregistered taxis out there. Was it you that mentioned that? That somebody, that they received a notice that they were supposed to
Yeah, that's,
dispose of the...
they got a bunch of junk taxis sitting off to the side that need to be dealt with, and I believe that code enforcement has dealt with that.
They're still there.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Yeah. So,
Can I ask a question? Is it 7 or 10 unregistered vehicles that's considered a junkyard? Graveyard.
No, it's not that many. It's less than that.
I know it used to be, and that's why I just kind of...
Yeah, it's less than that, so.
I was just wondering, in order to renew a license, if they have to comply with, if the code enforcement officer has said they need to be removed, that if maybe this, if they need to comply with the direction of the code enforcement officer, and if they are going to or not. I don't know where that stands. I see it, quite often, and they're still there, so I don't know if there's any action being taken or not.
Could you ask
I'll
Mr.
just follow up
Murchison?
with, I'll
Okay.
follow up with Kim.
And I don't think that issue there is just a matter of screening, because they do probably have an excessive amount of vehicles there, and it would be considered probably a junkyard, like the member in the audience brought up.
I don't know. Penny, do you know anything about that? Do you know anything about that one? that,
About how many?
that property or, you know.
I know what you're talking about because we talked to her last year. We sent her notice of violation last year. She has parts cars for her taxis. There's several of them there. Last year on a different property, I had reached out to the motor vehicle section about trying to enforce when people have these junk cars. We have an issue on Prescott Road too, where the auto dealer has like a sloppy second slot, and that those cars are going nowhere. And I never could hear from them like what actions we can take. We can take an action if someone's license has a junkyard, but when people are really have a junkyard and they won't do anything about it, we're not getting any help from the state to be able to say, look, you're operating an unlicensed junkyard, we want you to stop. But I could just never get anywhere. They were in the middle of a staff change, and now I'm not the code officer, so I mean, I can mention it to Ken.
Can you require them to put a fence up?
Excuse me,
We tried.
could we go after them with, like, a homeowner can only have, what, one
One.
unregistered vehicle?
And that's what we did last year. Last year, the person that you're talking about on the corner of the River Road and the Fort Road, who operates a taxi business, we sent her a letter and said, you have too many inoperable unregistered vehicles because our property maintenance code prohibits any more than one. It actually, you really shouldn't even have one. But some people have a plow truck that's not registered, so we usually let one slide. At that time, she said, those are my parts cars. I need those for my business. It's part of my business to have these cars so I can work on my other cars. I said, can you at least screen them from view and keep them, make sure that you're keeping them away from the property line so it's not a harborage for animals, because we don't want to have, you know, animals taking up refuge in these junk cars and then getting over in the neighbors and things like that, because that's what happens when people have these old, you know, junky things sitting around, whether it's tires or cars or anything. And I met with her last year. She said yes, she would try to consolidate the cars and put up screening, but it never happened. And then when I talked to her again in the fall, well, I can't do anything now because winter's coming. And honestly, that's what happens. That's the cycle with code enforcement. This is how it happens. Oh, you want to complain about me? My neighbor is worse. He's doing this. That's the first step when you're talking to them. The second step is, well, I'll get to that. I'll let you know. Third step, oh, it's winter, I can't do anything now. Maybe I can do something in the spring. And it just goes around and around like that because people just refuse to be adults and be accountable for the behavior on their property. And we don't have, as code officers, when we say to them, we're going to fine you, we're going to take you to court, but we have to come to you to be able to do that. And in the past, you know, everyone wants to be the nice guy. No one wants to be the bad person and say, hey, buddy, I'll see you in court. Everyone wants to be, oh, well, that's okay. That's okay. We'll work with you.
So everybody, I'll work with you.
You will?
I will.
That's great, because I think that we just need to make an example of a few people, and we'll get some of this junk stopped. With the grass, with the trash. I mean, trash, go over to Hillcrest and just drive over there. And we can't get these people to take their trash out. I just want to stop these people and tell them to grow up. Do something about your filth. The rest of us are tired of looking at it. We get calls every day from that. But back to your original question, which is about the cars. So last year we had that problem, and then up on the Prescott Road. So I reached out to the motor vehicle section to say, you know, at what point does someone's junk cars become an auto graveyard? So we can say, look, if you're going to operate an auto graveyard, you need to have a license for that. I could never get any response from them. And I realize they've undergone a staff change now, and that person's now been in that position for a few months, and they might be able to work with us on that and help us be the bad guys and tell people to clean up their mess.
Mayor, I think part of what we need to do is look at our own ordinances, our own nuisance regulations, our own junk vehicles on properties regulations, if we can put more teeth into our own ordinances and we have a little more backing in the ordinance, then we can send out code enforcement, be a little more aggressive on those things.
Well, wouldn't the fact that they've been notified, couldn't you withhold renewing their license?
That's part of what we'd have to look at in the ordinances is can we, if it's not tied to that now, we'll need to tie those two together in the ordinances so that we can't just arbitrarily say, hey, we're going to hold up your license if this isn't there. It has to be in the regulations that we have that authority. The council has adopted that as authorities that we have.
You have those authorities already, plus you have the state statutes that by the state statute, they represent a junkyard right now, okay? So I'll support that in the court.
I think it'd be worthwhile. I mean, it might cost us, hopefully, like you said, you send a message.
Set an example for people, but you have to have somebody that's willing to be the bad guy, because everyone wants to be the nice guy.
I think you have that emotion.
Do you think I have it in me to be the bad guy?
Apparently, I'm on your side, that's for sure.
If we take a vote, I'm sure that everyone would say, let's send in the bad cop. That's Penny.
Thank you.
Ask for a raise.
Just try not to be so wishy-washy next time we ask you.
Okay.
All right, so what are the wishes? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? So moved. Public hearing at 6:42. Ordinance 03-218 series establishing an airport department and airport advisory committee. What this would do would be something like we have a rec committee, we have a library committee, we have a planning board. It'd be a board that would look out for the airport. Anyone from the public have any comments?
I thought the airport.
Wilfred Martin, 74 York Street, Caribou, Maine. I thought the airport already had an advisory committee.
Apparently not.
Okay. Another thing, I have to come to some conclusion that I agree with the lady here about the rules about junkyards and stuff, but isn't there something in the code already that takes care of that?
We've already discussed that, and we're talking about the airport.
Okay. If you're talking about the airport right now, you're going to establish a new airport committee? Is that what you intend to do, or is there a committee already set up?
It's new.
Okay.
No committee.
How do you apply to get on the committee?
I suppose the same as you do for any other city position. Apply at the city office.
Okay, so all I have to do if I want to get on the airport committee is to...
There'll be something in the paper, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Looking for volunteers.
Yeah, okay. I would like to get on the airport committee, so put my name down on there, would you?
Just come in and meet with Jane, and she can have you fill out the paperwork for it.
Come and see me,
Huh?
Mr. Martin. Come and see me, Mr. Martin.
You mean I have to fill out paperwork to get on that committee?
Do not come in tomorrow. The office is closed.
Okay.
For the election.
You gotta renew your pilot's license too.
No, that's long gone. Okay.
Anyone else have Anyone else have comments on the airport?
Yes, good evening. Mark Jones. I live at 835 Main Street. Pilot, and I've been involved with the airport for probably 35 years or so. And my understanding is the intention of this airport committee is as part of a citizens committee, just to provide information to the board as they're making decisions about the airport. I mean, we understand that the folks on the city council more than likely are not pilots,
and therefore would be unfamiliar with some of the operations and the needs that a municipal airport would have. So, and the discussion came about that we'd like to be part of just an advisory committee to where we could advise the city council board of the decisions they make. I mean, say same as you would with public works. If they were going to go out and buy a dump truck, you guys probably would be looking for for input from the public works director, or same for the chief of police or like that. And that's all we're looking to do, is just be able to have a voice to where you can the board can make informed decisions at the airport.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anyone else on the airport? Okay, public hearing closed at 6:47. Council? How many members would there be? 6 or 7?
7.
7? What are the wishes of the council?
Move to adopt.
Second.
All those in favor? Approved. Public hearing at 6:47. Designation of Caribou Senior Living LLC Municipal Development and Tax Increment Financing District with associated development program. For the public, this is the reuse of Hilltop School. Is this correct, ma'am?
Yes.
Anyone from the public have any comments on the reuse of Hilltop?
Somebody's presenting their proposal out front. Okay. I have a few questions. My name is Maynard St. Peter. I live at 79 Madawaska Road, Caribou, Maine. I have a few questions in lieu of this tax incremental financing program that we've been running through in the city for quite a number of times. You're going to establish a new district up there where the old Hilltop School is, right? Okay. You're looking to give back tax dollars. This is what the state has set up the facility to do. The TIF is a state-operated or state-sanctioned method of reimbursing the investors to some extent by giving them back tax dollars. The paper said that you would be giving back 95% and retaining 5% for administrative fees. Now that is for only the first year?
For the life of the district?
For the life of the district. That's not incremental financing. My understanding, incremental financing and all the other incremental financing TIF programs that we have done, it started out at 95%. The following year it went down to 90, and then 85, and it took 20 years to reduce that TIF program. That's incremental financing. Giving back the full tax dollars and keeping only 5% is not what the TIF program was designed to do, to what they explained to us when they first initiated these programs. It was to attract the business to invest into the city of Caribou by incrementally giving them back tax dollars. Not to give them back all of it, but over a period of 20 years to reduce the amount that we were giving back to them, and we keeping more of the tax dollars. That's the way the program was set up. I don't know why this one read 95 for the life of the program. That's just, I don't know how the state looks at that.
So is your question whether it's proper to do it?
It was, to me, the 20-year program of reducing the amount and taking more money for the town was a perfect program that has always worked for us. We did that with the Caribou Motor Inn. We did it with all the other properties that we put in the TIF program. This is a new venture here, doing it this way. It isn't the way it was done before. Not only that, the monies that that we are giving back to them. I mean, you're talking about giving back $1 million over 20 years. You know, that's an awful lot of incentive.
Could we, first of all, does the state have requirements on percentages and what you can or can't do?
The states, as you mentioned, they sanction utilizing tax increment finance programs. The maximum amount of time that you can create a district for is 30 years. The state does not get involved in the percentage of or proportionality of tax dollars that the city can use in a district. That's up for the city to negotiate and determine what it's going to do with those dollars. So the city could say 100% goes back to the person for the entire life if they wanted to.
And how much money is this involved? Mayor had mentioned $1 million. Do you have an idea of how much it would be over the life of the agreement?
The document in your packet provides that number. Let me get down to it. So for the city, it's proposed that this district would be 30 years in length, and that the city would, over the course of those 30 years, receive a little over $48,000. That's if all the assumed values are holding true, and they are conservative, so we anticipate that would be a little bit more. The overall benefit to the developer, if you deduct the projected company revenue would be roughly $30,000 a year, or close to $920,000 over the 30 years.
Almost $1 million.
Almost $1 million.
And what's the rationale for us doing this? Why did we do this? I mean, I know why, but
part of the discussion that's taken place in the past was that the renovation, the redevelopment of the school, one of the big costs is going to be the environmental cleanup, with pulling asbestos out of there, being able to help take care of that, to do the renovation, the ability to bring additional senior housing into the area that is needed. I know in talking with the hospital, every month they complain about not having enough senior housing in the area that they can send people to or to help out with. And so it's really it is an economic driver of getting additional housing opportunity into the area and helping offset a lot of the investment costs into this building. It's estimated they're going to have to put close to $4 million or even higher into this building just to make it work.
And the way we see it, if we have the building and we can't sell it,
It's ours.
and we have to tear it down, so we're
I understand that.
$100,000. This way, we're going to have people that live in Presque Isle now that can live in Caribou, their hometown. So they'll be buying products here. They'll be going to this hospital instead of Tamik, and so
Yeah, but
the rationale.
I understand the rationale behind trying to give tax incremental financing. In fact, I'm in favor of that. It's this new policy that's being implemented here, which so far exceeds what we've ever done in the past. All our other TIF programs were on an incremental financing program. They decreased over the years. Most of them were written for 20 years, but they lasted for 30 years. Therefore, the tax district kept an additional 10 years of tax dollars for them to play with to attract new businesses in here. Here we have no incentive, no money coming into the district to attract new businesses. This is all going back to the one particular individual. I don't understand why the change was made so drastically from what we have always done in the past to what we're doing today.
It's a different situation because those others were stick-built or they wanted to come in and invest.
That's right.
Here, we already have the product. We have a need for something that can be reused for, and the only way that the developers, there are tons of developers coming at us saying,
I know.
you're at that building, the only way they could make it profitable in their mind was to do what we did. So that's
to give that much back.
That's what we do.
Well, now, and then I would question, what are you basing the return value, the 30, what you said, $33,000 a year was what they would get? This is a piece of property now going to be worth $2.5 million, $2.25 million. They plan to invest in it, plus. Now, $2.4 million at a regular tax rate would give us $55,000 a year. Taxes on that piece of property. Not 33, it's 55. 55, that figures out a lot different. You know what I mean? We're talking, you're talking on a 30-year program. Now you're talking about giving away $1.5 million. If you're using the numbers that you're stating, $2.25 million at 23 mills, that's 2,400 1,000 increments. That's $55,000 right across the board. And we're only going to keep $2,500 a year on that and give the rest back.
The numbers, they would get 95%, we'd get 5%.
That's right.
I understand. It may be more than this, and we fully expect that it would be, but the numbers that we have are based on, we've looked at other schools that have been renovated for this purpose, and we've looked at the value that those cities have assessed those at. Yes, it might be conservative, but that's the best that we have, and hopefully it does come in more, because yes, then the city would get more tax dollars back over the life.
Over the life of the project.
Over the life of the project.
Yeah, but that means for 30 years we would have no means of utilizing tax dollars to support the infrastructure of the city of Caribou. The taxpayers would still remain with the burden of taking care of the infrastructure. That's the fire department, the ambulance department, the police department, the roads, everything that's being maintained. We have no money coming in from them people to take care of that problem. They're adding to our burden, but they're not paying any taxes at all on towards it. You know, this is where I come in, where incremental financing helped because it was offset. We got more and more and more every year. Glad to give to that. I mean, that would be 50% of their returns would be given back to them, or the taxes would be given back to them over a 20-year period. That's what we did before. I don't understand this one. It's just too big of a giveaway, too big of a grab, I think. People might go along with it, but I'm thinking it's just a little beyond what the scope of the program was designed to do originally. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Wilfred Martin, 74 York Street, Caribou, Maine. I'm at a quandary too on how this project is coming about in the first place. We're talking a public building here that's been handed over back to, has it been handed over back to the town by the state?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. But yet all this is going on, and there's a mystery on whether or not the state is going to hand it back. Am I correct?
It's not the state that's going to hand it, it's the school department.
It's what?
It's the school department that's going to hand it to the city.
No, they're going to turn it over to the city, not the school department. They're going to turn it over to the city for you to turn it over to this group. Now, I see that there's 2 council members that are missing tonight, and I think this is important enough to have all the council members here, and this has been going on long enough. There's a big mystery about this whole program on who's applied for this, how many people has applied for this. Everything's done behind closed doors. There's nothing here that's executive session material, okay? And we're talking public property. Now, I think you mentioned to Mr. St. Peter that there was other people that were after that school?
No.
No? I thought you said that there was more than one. Okay.
No, I'm saying,
Well, it never was put out. It never was put out for bid, okay? And that's where I have the argument, is why it wasn't put out for bid and why more information hasn't been put out until this all comes up at a public hearing tonight. Now, is it possible to just stall this off enough to get the total city council together and have a meeting with the public and have the people involved come in here and explain this project to us? And what it's going to be, because it's already gone through about 3 phases. The first time it went through, it was for elderly apartments. Then there was a second round on this that was for assisted living. I think it come out in the papers that way. Am I right or am I wrong?
I think the developers they've been up in the air a little bit as to which program they were going to be doing. So it has fluctuated.
Yeah, so, you know, they're talking about a large TIF program. They're talking about developing a large building that's never been put out to bid to anybody. They didn't give anybody else a chance at this to use this building. And I think there's some explanation that should be heard here to the general public. I mean, how much are we going to TIF in this town? Isn't there a limit on the amount of TIFing that you can have?
Yes.
What is the limit? See, this is where a public meeting on this would all come out.
So as a city, the state says we cannot TIF more than, Penny, maybe you can help me. 5%? Yeah, 5% of the total acreage of the city.
5%?
5% of the total acreage in the city.
5% of the total of the city?
Total acreage.
The total acreage, okay. Haven't they TIF'd their 5% already?
No.
No? Well, even if they haven't, we should have a better explanation on what this project's going to be about, how much it's going to affect the taxpayer, how much the TIF is going to affect the taxpayer. So, is it possible to have a public meeting on this?
we're having one right
And
now.
have these people involved here to explain the program, so we'll know what they're using it for. You still don't know if it's going to be assisted living, or if it's going to be just apartments. You don't know how many jobs it's going to create.
We do.
It's right here.
The document that was provided for public inspection, it outlines, based on their information that they have, this would be a senior living facility. They've gone away from strictly assisted living because that got into a lot more red tape and other things they didn't want to have to deal with. But they are anticipating, we have it in the document, 10 new jobs, some of those being administrative, some part-time, and it would be as a senior living facility.
It'll be a senior living facility. That covers a lot of ground. Is it going to be?
It does.
Is it going to be just apartments for seniors, or is it going to be assisted senior living? What is it going to be?
Like you said, senior living covers a lot of ground, but that
Right.
gives them flexibility as a developer to make it work.
No, it's up, but we're talking about a TIF program here, which involves all the taxpayers of this city. And we'd like to have an explanation on where we stand. I mean, our taxes are through the roof now. Is this going to enhance it further? Is this going to help us? Do we really need it? Should they let this be bid out to other people so other people can get involved, or what? Or can we get these people to come in and explain the program so you can make some sense of it and approve it one way or the other?
They've got it here, what, they're gonna have apartments, but they're also gonna have meals. They're gonna have a dining room, so they'll be able to get their meals there if they want to. It's not gonna be, I don't think, assisted living as in Presque Isle, but there's gonna be some services
Yeah.
there for them.
But this has all been done behind closed doors, and nobody else has had a chance to take that building and do something with it. I mean, this is a public building. It should have been advertised that it was available. Everything seems to be a big secret here on who the people are, what's really going to happen up there. They haven't made up their minds yet what kind of a senior citizen building it's going to be. Yet they're asking for a TIF. How's it going to affect the taxpayers in the community? Is it going to help raise our taxes some more, or is it going to help lower it? If it's a new business in town, it should help lower it. I'd like to have an explanation on it, you know.
So I think one of the things to point out here is that right now that piece of property generates 0 taxes to the city, being owned by the school district.
I fully agree with you there.
So turning this into
Let's not get back to that. Huh?
Turning this into a private venture, private development dollars, it puts it back on the tax rolls. Now, recognizing that 95% of the taxes that would be generated, if this goes through and gets approved the way it's drafted, 95% of any of those taxes would go back to the developer, and the city would get 5% of what's being generated. Now, that's still 5% is better than 0.
No. Well, then I'll tell you what. You can come up and TIF my area up there, and I'll gladly give you 5% of my taxes. Okay? Return me the rest. Now, I need a better explanation than that. You know, there's more people that could get involved with this.
We started talking about this last year.
Huh?
We started talking about this last year.
Yeah, but there's nothing you people never had meetings on it with the public. You had little pieces in the paper about it. That's all you had, you know? And you people are here to make the decisions.
In 2 years.
And it's supposed to be done in public. Not behind any closed doors or in executive session. This never was put up for bid. This building was never advertised down country or anywhere else as being available to anybody else.
I think, didn't we trade to have them do some work, like do some abatement and stuff like that? It was going to cost us a fortune if we didn't.
We would have had to pay that.
So we would have to pay money to abate those other buildings?
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. I'm familiar with what you talked about there, and that's. But here again, other people might have got involved, and they will take care of that themselves. Anybody that wants that building, they can take care of it. They're getting it for nothing anyway. Okay.
Yeah, he's
tearing down
the Sincock School. That's another thing that I question. That Sincock School deal. You haven't fully explained what's happening there, and the general public doesn't know.
That is not habitable, if I'm not wrong.
So
So the
All I'm asking is you have a meeting with the general public and these people, or put the building up, advertise the building somewhere else so somebody else might get involved. I'm sure there's other people that are involved in elderly housing, assisted living, that would be glad to look at that building and probably take it over or pay for it.
Thank you. Anything else?
Okay. No, but
Thank you.
are you going to do anything about it, or are you going to set up a meeting
After
for the general public?
hearing, I'm going to close the hearing. I'm going to ask the wishes of the council.
Can you stall this until the total council is here?
I can only speak for myself. We've been at it 2 years.
You're,
I'm
wa-
in favor of stalling it.
you can only speak for yourself.
I can't say, yes, I stalled it, but
Yeah.
I'm one vote.
No, wouldn't it be nice if the total council was here? This is a pretty important topic here.
We can't stop production. We have a quorum.
Typical Caribou government.
Anybody else?
Yes, please. My name is Diane Gove on the River Road in Caribou, and I totally disagree with these gentlemen. I think the TIF district is an awesome project. I don't think I think everything was done upfront and legal. These are local people that are purchasing the building and putting money into our community. It's not costing the city to tear down the building and having $0 come in. 5%, like the city manager said, is better than no percentage for tax revenue. So, my opinion, I think that regardless, it's only 5 of you. You've been talking about it for 2 years, so the 2 counselors that are not here know exactly what's going on, and obviously they're in favor of it. Otherwise, they could have voiced their opinion before tonight. So I think this is a great, TIF district is great, and I think you should all vote in favor of it. Thank you.
Anyone else?
The paperwork that was in the packet, there was some incorrect numbers in there, and I worked with the manager and Mr. Willett to get those fixed, except one. The copy he sent me later this afternoon still has an incorrect date on page 10 under financial plan. That should be March 31st, 2019. Because we've set our evaluation date for this year as April 1, 2018. So he corrected the April 1, 2018 in this, but not 19. So it should say March 31st, 2019, and then in parentheses, April 1, 2018. The other problems he did correct before he sent the one this afternoon.
So the document that was in the packet was prepared by NMDC on our behalf. Penny and I have been working closely with the gentleman that's prepared that. As she indicated, there are some minor changes that we can incorporate into the document, but overall, the general terms have remained the same.
Right, it's just numbers, but I didn't know if it needs to be in your motion, if it matters that the one in the packet was wrong. I think it was more typing issues than anything else. And I guess the other thing I would say about this estimate of value, I had to come up with some kind of a scientific, wild guess about that. And what I did for the scientific part is I don't think it's in here. I didn't bring down my folder, but I looked at things like the home farm apartments here in Caribou, the number of units, the square footage, the configuration. And I also reached out to other communities. As the manager said, there are other communities in Maine that have taken old school buildings and made them into apartments. And I did reach out to them. There's one in Frankfurt that's very similar to this project, but the project was not complete in 2017, so they didn't have a number for me. But I will check to see if they've set their values yet for 2018, and that would be something we would compare it to. So that's where that number comes from. It's an estimate based on apartments we have now and other projects in the state. And I guess I also want to mention, there's also a benefit to the community with personal property tax. I mean, that structure up there, they're going to be paying tax on a lot of property up there. And some of it will no doubt be exempt property, but we will get money back from that. Any kind of personal property revenue will offset taxes. It's not part of this TIF. There's nothing in this TIF that's anything to do with personal property, only with the real estate. So if you look at similar type businesses and how much personal property they have, you'll see that that's not insignificant with lowering our tax burden. So I think that was all I want to say about that.
Anyone else? Public hearing closed at 7:16. Council discussion. All right, what are the wishes of the council?
Move to accept designation of the Caribou Senior Living LLC Municipal Development and Tax Increment Financing District with the associated development program.
Second.
Yes?
If I might interject there, the next item on your agenda is the Resolution 0601, which by adoption of that resolution would take care of that. So I don't know if you want to handle that motion pertaining to the resolution as opposed to just adopting the plan.
New business adoption 8A.
Where is that?
If you look on your agenda, it's 8A, page 91, 92.
So Resolution 0601, 2018 approves the designation of Caribou Senior Living LLC Municipal Development Tax Financing District with the associated development plan. This plan establishes a 30-year TIP district to help redevelop the Hilltop Elementary School site. So all we're doing is establishing the district, correct?
This basically says you approve the plan that's been
Right.
presented. We have to still submit it to the state. They would review it, make sure we did everything we needed to get it created, and we have to wait back from them to say, yes, you're good to go.
Second.
You okay with that?
Mm-hmm.
We have to, can we just disregard the last motion?
Yes.
Yes.
Discussion. All those in favor? Approved. Okay, introduction of ordinance 04, 218 series, amending the city's wages policy.
Introducing ordinance number 04, 2018, Series City to Caribou, County of Aroostook, State of Maine, an ordinance adopting policy for wages and salaries.
Thank you. Item 8C, discussion and possible action regarding Connor snow plowing agreement.
Mayor and council, we have a contract with Connor through the county to provide snow plowing on their roads, and this contract just renews that for another 3-year period of time.
Can't hear you.
The benefit to the city, they have in the contract, you'll see that there is a set dollar amount that the city would be paid annually for that, and just to get down to that. So from July 2018 to June 30th, 2019, The city would be paid $60,711, and that amount would go up each year. The contract would end June 2021, at which point we anticipate there would be another renewal coming to the council in place at that time.
Did you get that, sir?
I did not. That's all right. Continue on. We're going to do it anyways.
Okay, so could we redo this so that we charge them the same increase that they charge us every year?
They charge us every year?
Well, the the county value, whatever the bill they send us keeps going up 3-4% every year. And we go up what, 1, 2? Just making a comment that I'll get back to them.
The dollar amount is anticipated to cover our costs. Certainly we could look more carefully at that and see if that's not covering our cost, we could modify those numbers and send it back to them.
I think it more than covers our cost, is that right? Mr. Willett?
What was paid in the last year?
It was 59 and change.
Yes, we do make money on this deal. Any discussion from the council? What are the wishes of the council?
Move to accept.
Second.
All those in favor? Approved. Okay, number 9, reports of High Street repair project.
I'm going to give that one to you, Dave.
So a little bit of bad news.
Oh, no.
Seems like every time I come up, there's always a little bit more bad news. MDOT put together a bid package for High Street. And it was originally going to be put together as Packet A and a Packet B, and the city would have been responsible with the 50-50 cost share on the Packet B, which would have been the mill and fill. So what they decided to do was they put it out as a whole bid for themselves, and what they done is they separated the mill and fill section that would have been our responsibility, and we were going to share the cost with them on that. It's late in the year to be putting bids out, especially with all the contractors being so busy as it is. And we kind of anticipated that would happen. That's kind of why we did the big fuel tank farm last year, because there was just going to be so much work for this year. Short of it all, DOT had done an estimate on what they thought it would cost to do High Street. They secured the funds for that. They went out to bid, and just shy of $500,000 short. That one bid came in for the project, where we expected at least 3, if not 4. One bidder at $470,000 or $484,000 over.
What was the total bid?
600 and some odd thousand for their share, and 303 for ours. It was almost $1 million.
And it came in $1.4 million?
No, it came in at $1 million, and they were expecting the 600,000.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So our section, had the DOT said, yeah, we can fund it, their side, ours still came in at $303,000, was an extra $60,000 just on our share. So in talking with the DOT, they understand that the road is in such disrepair that we just can't go anymore. What they're willing to do is they're going to come in with an LPC project, where it's, you know, we see all these back roads, the East Prescott Road, the West Prescott Road, where they go in and they put a thin overlay. And they've offered to do that for High Street, which will get us out of the predicament that we're in.
they're at the time that I had the meeting with them, they weren't 100% sure they could do that. There may be a little bit of investment from the city. Maybe the city trucks has to haul the mix. That might be our cost share. Keep in mind that we are an urban compact zone, and part of the rules and regulations says that DOT equipment cannot work inside of the urban compact. So it might be Public Works to haul the mix. We're talking about 300 to 400 tons. That should easily be done in a day's time. In consideration of the heavy traffic, it may take a little bit longer, but I suspect that the contractor will try to do that street in one day. One of my concerns that I expressed to the DOT is anytime we've ever put Band-Aids on and in hopes that the next year was going to be the project. I mean, let's face it, those of us that's been around, that's been 18 years for High Street that the Caribou has put money away. We've had money put away for years and years and years for our cost share of that. And every time that a Band-Aid gets done, it seems like it gets thrown on a back burner and forgotten for 4, 5 to 8 years. So what they've done this time is they've reassured me that this project will go out in December, 1st of January, when contractors are not quite so busy. They expect that bid to come in much, much lower. They were kind of surprised that even with their estimates, they thought that it would still be under that, and we ended up being almost $500,000 over. So I told them we've got to do something, and what they'll end up doing is they'll shim. We'll end up with we'll end up with 4 inches in the wheel ruts, and we'll end up with 1 inch over the top. That will make it safer for the traveling public. It'll definitely make it easier for us to plow in the winter. And then come summer, providing that the bids come in like is anticipated, the DOT will go in there and they'll grind every bit of that back out. So I asked them, if you're going to spend $30,000 or $40,000 to do a Band-Aid, are you positive, that this is not going to push us back? They assured me that it won't. And at this point, they know that the road is in such bad shape that $30,000 or somewhere in the ballpark of that is a lot better than spending $500,000 more than anticipated. So that's kind of where we're at.
Can you get all of this in writing? I'm serious.
I don't. Well, so I know how the programs work. The money has been allocated. It's there. What we always had for a problem in the past was they just didn't put it in the work plan. The work plan is all done. It's there. They have a 2-year work program. I honestly believe that this will happen next year, unless we have another $400,000, $500,000 shortfall.
If I recall reading the work plan for this year, that project was supposed to be done this year.
It was supposed to be done this year. Yeah. And up until a week ago.
No good either.
Well,
If they may get more people to bid next year.
they'll have more people to bid. I mean, they gave me an example of the Parker Sidon Road. They had a slide there a couple years ago or a year and a half ago. They anticipated that it would be somewhere around a $700,000 fix. That was their estimates from their engineering firm. About the same kind of scenario, went out in the middle of summer for bid. It came in at over $1 million. They decided to hold off. What they done was they kind of made a little turnaround just to go a little further out. This year here, they went back out to bid in the middle of January, and it came in at $300,000 less than estimated. So that gives you an idea. I mean, there's a $500,000 swing there.
What about the drainage project?
So that's the project we're actually talking about, Mr. McDonough. The drainage from Main Street to Glen will be all new basins and pipes underneath. From Glen Street up until where we start to go down beyond Bennett Drive, the pipes are in good shape, but the basins are poor, so that's being replaced.
But that's not going to happen this year.
That's not going. That's the part that came in at $400,000 over budget.
Well, you watch them. Come December, if that's not there, you tell them the new governor, and Senator Collins, and anybody else that'll listen to us is going to be on their case, because this has gone on long enough.
Oh my, I've been with the department, this month here makes 20 years, and I know that the city of Caribou has had money put away for their share. At one time, the city believed that it would be a 75-25 split for High Street. And we've had money put away for a long time for that project. Right off the top of my head, I can't tell you how much it was, but I could be...
Done 10 or 11 years ago.
Yeah, so in 2009, I believe, is when we had the parade. The city put it on their dime, and if I remember right, that was $38,000 or $40,000. So here we are 9 years later, and we all agree that that Band-Aid wasn't a 9-year fix. That was a 3 or 4 year fix. But we just couldn't seem to get the drainage project into the work plan for the DOT. I can tell you that it is in the work plan. I honestly believe that they will put that to bid again, and providing that the bids doesn't come foolishly overpriced like they are this time, that project will be done. So.
And how many places around the state have they done this? One, I think. I mean, is this...
So I think what happened for this year is by the time the engineering was done, because keep in mind, Prescal office actually did the engineering for the sizing of the culverts. This is a project that I've been working with them for well over a year. At one point, they talked about the outfall by the fire station. I informed them that we had no money to pay for that. I mean, there was $1 million in that outfall alone. And then as little as last summer, there was talk about increasing the pipe size on North Main. And then the engineering department come back and said that they think that the pipes are adequate there. And so the project has kind of, I don't want to say scaled back, but you're still going to get the mill and fill and all new basins. And currently the main trunk line runs down on the food trend side. There's nothing left of that main line. All the pipes are gone. They are going to put the new main line on the library side this time because of all of the wires at the Verizon building here. There's so much in the ground stuff, it's unbelievable. The project will also include new sidewalks on both sides. DOT will fund the Shop and Save sidewalk, and the city of Caribou will take care of the other side, the food trend side. And we have an MPI, which is that 50-50 split that we do with the state. Those of you that's been around, we did that with the downtown Sweden and Herschel back 2-3 years ago. It's a really good program. We got Record and Herschel and Hatch and Sweden Street done last year, and it was a 50-50 split, but because Public Works had done all the basins and all the supervising, we didn't have a whole lot of money into that, but dollars out of our pocket. There was a fair amount of work from the Public Works Department, but yeah. So I guess it's not going to happen. Are you guys? I mean, the tears want to run right down.
I'll just ask the council, do we just accept this, or do we want to...
There's nothing we can do, we kind of got it.
Well, I mean, we could write them a letter saying, hey, but...
Yeah.
Whatever.
Just like anybody else is not going to force the council into, a $100,000 increase. No matter what, we're not going to force the DOT into doing a $400,000 over budgeted when they know that it can come in cheaper. I think that they've done real well in offering us. They're going to put this hot top this time, this shim on their dime. There is no indication that they plan to put the project off. It sounds like it's full steam ahead for next summer. It's not what we had hoped for, but it's still not disastrous.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
River Road reconstruction.
Just wanted to give the council an update with that. We had 4 engineering firms that submitted qualifications for the design of repairing the road. The review committee met last Friday and looked over those. We spent about 2 hours going through each of the proposals, and ranking them and scoring them. At this point, the selection committee has recommended 2 of those firms be brought back for face-to-face presentations, and those are right now scheduled for June 19th at 1 o'clock and 2 o'clock. And so we'll look at that. A lot of this is still predicated on the FEMA funding. The last we heard, that wasn't looking very positive. If we get the final word that FEMA funding is not available at all, that can be a pro and a con. Obviously, the negative would be a major reduction in the funding to repair the road, but it also takes off some of the shackles as far as the procedural elements of we have to do step A, B, C, D. We can speed things up and maybe make things happen in a more timely fashion.
Do you know how long that's going to be approximately before we finally get the final word from FEMA?
In talking with Mr. Wood at the county last week, he said it was probably going to be the end of this week.
Okay, thank you. Bird's eye cleanup.
So the Bird's Eye site cleanup, during the last city council meeting, the council directed us to move forward with getting the buildings taken down and getting the site cleaned up at an estimated cost of just over $120,000. It was pointed out to us that we did not have a final determination on all of the asbestos being cleaned up on the properties. And so we walked the site with CES engineers who prepared the original asbestos report. And the assumption was when the demolition went out to bid that all the asbestos had been cleaned up. Upon walking the site, we found that it wasn't all cleaned up. And CES was able to amend their report. Thankfully, there was a lot less asbestos than they originally identified, so some of it had been done, but not all of it. We received a bid back from county abatement to come in and clean up the asbestos, and it came in around $76,000. So that would be on top of the contract for demolishing the buildings at the $100,000. So when we got the grant for $100,000 from Northern Border Region Commission, we thought at that time the total project cost remaining was $120,000, but with the asbestos still to be cleaned up, it's closer to $200,000. So
I don't even remember now. The last time when we were addressing that area, I thought we had all the facilities or buildings over there assessed for asbestos, and all of that stuff is cleaned up.
the last report that we have record of was before the city took ownership of the property under NASIF, and he did have somebody come in and clean it up, but the same firm that did that original asbestos report, they never were called back to basically say yes, it's all been taken care of the way it needed to. So when we walked the site with them, that's when they were able to identify it wasn't all cleaned out.
Well, let's take the money we have and go as far as we can with it. I mean, if it's one of the buildings or part of one of the buildings, do what was budgeted.
Okay. Yeah, I know we were hoping to take everything down for that 120, but we'll meet with Gillens and talk with them about we're going to have to phase the project again. Obviously, we need to get the asbestos out before we can do anything. And
do we have a report now of what's what in which building and so on and so forth, so it's definitive and we know?
Yes.
We do?
Yes.
We have a written report?
Yes.
Okay.
So I might also mention the cost to remove the asbestos. That's just the asbestos. There was also a lot of junk, but what do they call that, Dave? Universal waste. So ballasts, fluorescent light bulbs, other things that can't just be lumped together and thrown away. So I've talked with Dave in Public Works, and they're going to go in and start cleaning that stuff out a little at a time, so we don't have that additional cost in the project as well.
And there is the potential of some income, right, from some of the metal that's there on those buildings, steel or whatever.
The contract is that they would demolition everything they could, and that they would pull out the steel and reserve that for the city to go and recycle. There is quite a bit still there on site. We don't know how much we're going to get back from that, but definitely not as much as the cost of the project.
No. Every little bit.
That's a question. Mr. Willett?
Could I speak just for a minute?
So, we will
Those are bad news.
take it whatever way you want. So I went up with a crew this morning, and we worked there for the day, 7 men, removing fluorescent tubings and the ballast, the high-pressure sodium lights, the mercury vapor lights, the whole 9 yards. And 2 things I'd like to say is, them buildings are in bad shape. We had to use a backhoe to clean around the floor so that our large forklift could get around to the lights. We're about 95% done with the lights. I suspect by dinner time tomorrow we'll be done with our portion. In my looking around, I am no asbestos expert by no means, but it does look like the largest amount is in the furnace room area, the boiler room area, which is what they used to use for insulating the pipes anyway. So I don't know that we always used to have some funds that we could use for demolition. I don't know if them are all used up. If there's funds available, let's get this project done and let's put this to bed. That thing needs to come down. It's a danger to the community. Thank you.
Maybe part of it would be take it down and just leave it there till the next budget cycle. I mean, then it's not going to fall if you take it down. That might be an option.
I did forget to mention that there is large amounts of steel in that building. We ended up with, don't hold me to it, but when they tore the freezer down, there was $6,000 or $7,000 worth of steel. I'm guessing there's triple, if not 4 times that amount up there. Them buildings are right full of steel.
We reserved some additional funds in this budget year for cleanup of old buildings. In fact, we had there's 4 single-family homes that we were looking at to demolish this year as well. It's, I guess, a matter of priority. Do we want to look at the 4 small single-family homes and get those cleaned up, or do we put all the money into the bird's eye site cleanup and try to maintain the other buildings for the season? But either way, it's not a lot, but there is some additional funds there.
I consider it a priority. Do it as much as you can. I mean,
We allocated $75,000 towards bird's eye site cleanup and tearing down of the other buildings. So we have, between the NMDC or the NBRC funds and that, $175,000.
and if you get 20,000 back from the steel, you might come close to doing it.
Then we could go and look at the single family homes or finish this one.
Are we gonna take down the single-family homes also?
If we get 20,000 in steel, we're going to need to put all of it into the bird's eye to get that cleaned up.
if you purchased the homes and you didn't take them down right away, you would still have time to take it, the road. There wouldn't really be any work. I can't imagine there would be any work done in 2018 on that road other than the engineering anyway. So those could, or are you talking the purchasing of them rather than the taking?
we're-
So they're talking about the blight,
whole thing.
these are the blight houses that are.
Right, we own 4 homes from tax acquisition.
Oh, that doesn't, oh, I'm sorry. I was
Yeah.
thinking that you were talking the 4 homes.
That
Oh,
we've
okay.
already identified
Right,
through earlier actions to demolish, correct?
yes.
And do we have a cost estimate on that?
We haven't put those out to bid yet because we also found asbestos in 2 of those 4 homes. So that also needs to be cleaned up. So we're not going to get everything done this year the way anticipated, but we can get some of it done.
Well, when the asbestos is out, then we reevaluate with McGill and how much he'll honor and whatever.
And you're still
Come
going to
back to the
reapply,
council.
right, for the brownfield grant? You're gonna
We'll reapply for the Brownfield grant, and we'll probably also reapply to NBRC
Right.
to see if they can get some more funds sent down to us. Yep.
Painter?
Maynard St. Peter, is there any possibility that you could do what we did at Loring? Dig a big hole and put the whole thing in it and bury it over? Why not? I mean, the state approved us for doing it at Loring. The state was involved with us doing
We
it
don't allow burying in the compact zone.
in the compact zone. Okay. And that's
We don't
considered...
want to bury stuff today that are going to be tomorrow's problem.
Well, I mean, you put... What we did is we isolated
I
it.
know.
Yeah.
I know exactly what happened.
But you got how many thousands of acres on the base? And
Yeah.
we got 40 up there. So.
Yeah.
Anything else? Okay, other business. Any other business from the mayor or council members? I have none. Any other business? Our next regular meeting is our June 25th and July 9th. And we now have a couple of executive sessions. Need a motion?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
We can adjourn.
Oh,
You can't adjourn?
no, we got executive session.
Oh, I thought we had to adjourn out of here and then go back
No.
into executive
No.
session.
You have to do it while you're in session.
Oh, okay. Let's go.
Do it, Phil, and I'll second it. Move to go into executive session, state title 4056C, real estate and economic development. Second.
Thank you for coming. Next meeting, June 25th.
Will there be voting afterwards?